Hey, thanks for watching another video from weldingtipsandtricks.com. I'm Jody Collier, and I'm here with
Andrew Carden.
Andrew's a good friend of mine. His company, Nuco, has let him come here to help me work on some videos to help people pass the downhill 6010 API 1104 welding test. So before we get into pipe, we're going to do plate tests first, like little mock-ups of vertical downhill, overhead, and flat, and then we'll get into pipe. Today's plate, really good practice. Let's do it.
Let's hit it.
Before we get into the welding, I do want to thank Triangle Engineering at trieng.com for providing the test plates that we're going to use in this video, as well as this test stand. These are 30-degree beveled plates, and we're putting around a 1/16 land on there, a little heavy 1/16. That's a 332 rod there for reference, so a little bit less than 332, maybe a little bit more than 1/16. Same on the gap. 80 amps to start with here with a 1/8 rod. We'll do 532 root a little bit later on in different videos. This is a ESOP Rebel 285. Here we go. All right, Andrew is wearing a pancake hood. That's what he wears on the job. Why you wear the pancake hood, Andrew?
The pancake hood is excellent for welding in outdoor environments, so it blocks out all the backlight when you're trying to look at that root going in.
So what you saw just there was a little cold, so we bumped it up 10 amps to 90. And so now you see a little bit more light coming through the backside, really nice like it should. You can go, a lot of times sound is important here too, and for some reason I was having some serious sound issues with the camera, so not all the sound came through on this video. Hopefully we can make it work and use sound from other clips and things like that. All right, that's the root pass, not ground yet. We will grind it before putting in the hot pass, but before we get to the hot pass, let's talk about some of the key points in putting in a downhill root with 6010. So I'm going to let Andrew talk about these important bullet points here real quick.
So the first thing you guys want to consider is your fit up, making sure your fit up's nice and square, high, low, and not just your land and your gap, but everything that goes along with that. And that leads me into my second point, which is amperage, making sure that keyhole is not dragging too far behind you and making sure it's not, snuffed right up to the rod. And all different machines are going to have a different voltage ratio to the amperage, so you want to be aware of that depending on what machine you have. Rod angle in this video, you saw I had quite a bit of a drag angle, but depending on the position I'm in, that would change, as well as, slight hiccups in the fit up. And then pressure on the rod is also going to tie everything together, and just making sure that your rod is dragging on the sidewalls.
It's not always necessary to grind a root pass this smooth, but Andrew's company's procedure does require the root pass to be ground. Since we're going to 532 next, you do have to be careful how much you grind it, or you could punch all the way through, and that's no good. So we're going to 532 7010 HYP plus, also known as hippie rod. The HYP stands for high yield pipe. So here we go with the hot pass. 532 7010. Bump the amperage up to about 135 for this larger rod. I'm going to let Andrew explain a little bit about his technique here for the hot pass.
So if you notice, I get a nice tight whipping motion. You want to be in and out on that hot pass. You don't want to hang around too long, and what you definitely don't want to do is pull the rod out too far, which will increase your voltage and potentially blow through your root.
So you can notice the rod angle going here. Notice him stitching back and forth. Every time he stitches is creating a ripple. That's why you see those distinct ripples in 6010 and 7010. That's the hot pass all wire wheeled down. And now we're ready to come back with the first fill pass after the hot pass. Amperage is about the same for this pass. Could go up maybe 5 amps, but could go either way. It just depends on what machine you're running. Notice the rod angle. Now we're going to talk about a little bit different technique.
Now I'm starting to employ more of a circle technique, and you'll see my counterclockwise go to a clockwise technique. Really, it doesn't matter as long as you're comfortable with what the puddle is doing. Notice my rod angle as well, coming down the side of a plate or down the side of a pipe. You almost want to use that arc force to hold that puddle up a little bit. That's why I have more of a drag angle and right there you just saw a little bobble going the opposite direction, or maybe a horseshoe technique. All of those little techniques help in giving you that nice even ripple all the way down.
All right, that one's done. Now we're keeping this amperage about 135 here. That could change on a big piece of pipe where you got a lot more heat sink and everything. This is a 7-inch long piece of plate, gets saturated with heat. So the amperage could vary by as much as 10 amps or so, but it also could vary depending on what machine you're doing. What are you doing here, Andrew?
So with this fill pass, I try to get this as flush as possible. When the puddle starts, you start carrying a larger puddle, especially down the side of a plate that's hot, or a side of a pipe, your puddle is going to start acting a little different. So you're going to have to employ several different techniques in order to get the flux out of your way and to keep the puddle up in its place. It sometimes wants to chase after that rod and snuff you out.
Well, that puts us in a really good spot for a cover pass there. Now the cover pass, explain the limitations on the cover pass, Andrew, that you deal with on a pipe for visual inspection criteria.
So 1/16 max height is what the customer specifies is what they want for cap reinforcement. Another thing is they want at least a 1/16 on either side of the bevel taken away, so you end up on 375 wall with about a 1/2 inch wide cap pass. Notice here I actually turned my amperage down to about 130. I'm carrying a much larger puddle, and there really isn't much room for it to go depth wise, so you're moving pretty quickly. Notice on the right side just a little bit of a bump as I come around, because if I just do that straight side to side, I end up with a deposit of metal on one side or another. So I try to bump the puddle up on one side just to add a little bit more weld metal, and it'll make it nice and flat.
All right, that's done. There's the root pass. Now, a little side note, you got to have complete penetration. Oftentimes, if it's not poked through there a lot, the hot pass and subsequent passes will really push it through, and it'll be pushed through by the end. There's the cover pass, again, with that 1/16 height requirement. That's a 1/16 rod next to it, right close. All right, well, that wraps that up. Thank you, Andrew.
Not a problem.
And a thank you to Andrew's company, Nuco, for allowing him to come and work on these videos with me. I hope this helps somebody. We've got lots more to come. And again, we're doing open root with 1/8 here. We're going to step it up to 532 pretty soon. See you next time.